Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the fourth session of Target Prelims 2022, and this is the second session on Indian economy. Now before we start the discussion for the day, here are certain very important points. This Target Prelims initiative that we have started, it is free of a cost. I'm pretty sure all of you know this by now. But what we want you people to do is give us the feedback regarding these videos. Provide us with the valuable inputs, but more importantly, subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel, hit the like button, and if you tend to forget that every day at 7:30 p.m. these initiatives will be running, hit the bell icon so that you will get the notification before the session will actually start. And also, regarding these particular sessions, please let your friends know so that they can also get the benefit from these sessions. And some of you would be worried about which subjects are covered. All the economics plus all the other important subjects for UPSC exams will be covered in the Target Prelims initiative, such as international relations, economics, by now you all know this, polity, already 2 sessions are over. There will be sessions on science and technology, environment and ecology, etc. So all of these particular interesting sessions are going to be conducted in the coming days. If you want to know the full timetable, there is a link in the description below in the video. Please check it out. With this particular caveat, let me start the discussion for the day. This is the second lecture on Indian economy for Target Prelims 2022. Now, one more very important point. Yesterday, once the session was over, I was just going through many of your comments, and some of you have basically said, sir, while discussing on WPI, Wholesale Price Index, you have mentioned that under WPI, services are covered, goods are not covered. My mistake. In case of WPI, only goods are covered, services are not covered. 697 are all goods. Done with that particular correction. Let me start. The first question. Which of the following indicates a V-shaped recovery in an economy? Now, in the last couple of months, if you have been reading the newspaper, you would have come across 2 very important terminologies regarding the recovery in the economy. One side of the experts argue that India is experiencing a K-shaped recovery, and Government of India argues that no, India is experiencing a V-shaped recovery. Now, what generally does it mean when they say a V-shape or a K-shaped recovery? Now, have a look at the shape of the recoveries here. This graph represents a V-shaped recovery and this graph represents a K-shaped recovery. What is the basic difference between both of them? What is the meaning? Let's try and understand. In case of a V-shaped recovery, first and foremost, along x-axis, I will represent the time, let's say 2021, 2022 or quarter-wise, whatever the data is, don't worry. And along y-axis, I will represent the GDP number. Now, what is the basic idea here? If the economy keeps on growing, it is the trend line that it will follow. If you basically follow this particular green line that is visible now, or the green colored line that is visible, this is the trend of growth in the GDP of a country. Sir, why is that line going upwards like this? Simple logic. Today, India's GDP value is more than $3 trillion. I'm pretty sure all of you know this. And by 2024-25, we want to achieve $5 trillion worth of the economy. And Government of India is very clear about this. Now, when you move from, let's say, 3 trillion plus to 5 trillion, from one time period to another time period, let's say from this quarter to the next quarter to the next quarter, don't you think the GDP will keep on increasing? That is actually what is represented in this particular inclining line like this. But at certain point of time, when the GDP is moving like this, at certain point of time, there is a disruption that is caused in the economy. Hence, there is a contraction in the GDP. Contraction in the GDP simply means what? GDP value, rather than increasing, will fall down. Very simple. GDP value should increase from 3 trillion to 3.2, 3.2 to 3.5. So, rather than increasing, it will take a nosedive, it will contract very sharply. And after hitting the lowest level, again it will rebound and join this particular line and start moving gradually like this. So whenever there is a sudden contraction in the economy and sudden recovery, contraction and a fast-paced recovery, this kind of a situation is called as a V-shaped recovery. It is called as a V-shaped recovery. Do not be confused with V-shape and U-shape. In case of V-shape, sudden contraction, sudden recovery. Some of you might be thinking, sir, right, has there been any situation where there has been a sudden contraction in the economy? Take India. Take the best example, India. India in the last couple of years has experienced a sudden contraction, and there has been a recovery also in the Indian economy. Now, in case of V-shaped recovery, sudden contraction and recovery. What about U-shaped recovery? In case of a U-shaped recovery, the contraction will be very sudden. The contraction will be very sudden, but the recovery will be very, very slow. The recovery will be very, very slow. And that is a precise reason, because it takes a shape of this. It is called as a U-shaped recovery. U-shaped recovery. Done? Now, what are the indicators that indicate that economy or a particular country is experiencing a V-shaped recovery? Whenever the economic indicators such as let's say the consumption in the market rise up, let's say the transportation, right, keeps on increasing. When I say transportation, I'm talking about transportation of goods. The production of goods and services picks up or increases. These are generally the indicators which indicate that there is a recovery that is happening in the economy. Because when there is a contraction, you and me would be worried about our future, would be worried whether we will have the jobs after 1 month, 2 months or 3 months, etc. So what we will do is we will reduce the consumption of goods and services. And when our jobs are very safe, now we know that there is nothing wrong with the economy, it will start recovering. What we will do? We will start consuming more and more goods and services. And that is the precise reason production in the economy rises up. Transportation of these particular goods and services, specifically goods here, will increase. But how do I measure transportation? Toll collections. All of you will agree? Toll collections. Toll collections will basically give you idea whether the movement of freight, movement of goods is increasing or not. Railway freight transportation, goods can be transported even through railways also. That will also give you a very good indicator. So there are certain indicators, and the finance minister in the last couple of years has hammered on the point that there is a V-shaped recovery, and these are the indicators which indicate that there is a V-shaped recovery. Now have a look at this. Power consumption. Right? Can you connect power consumption with the recovery? Yes. Right? There is a connection between the power consumption and the recovery. Sir, what is the connection here? For the factories to produce more, for the companies to produce more, they will require more raw materials, more labor and more electricity. Because you are running a factory, you are running machines. Machines run on what? Electricity. Right? So if companies start consuming more and more electricity and overall power production and consumption increases in the economy, again please understand the context here. Please understand the context. I am saying recovery, right? Recovery is indicated by what? So you will have to start from a point where there is a contraction. Then you will realize, okay, if the companies are purchasing more electricity means they are producing more. If they are producing more, they are selling more. And that is the indicator. So first one is the correct one. Higher toll collection. Right? So in case of toll collections, the trucks are passing by the tolls. Some of you will say, sir, I can also pass through the toll. But does it indicate the recovery is happening? Yes, that could also indicate the recovery happening. Because during, let's take the example in the current situation, during pandemic, did we travel more or did we take rest in our homes, saying that I'm working from home? You tell me, did we travel more during the pandemic or did we take more rest at home? Obviously, we were more of, we took more of the rest at home. We worked from home itself. So during recovery, what will happen? People will start traveling. I can understand, people will start going from one place to another place. Now they want to go out of the cities, go to that particular state, this particular city or that hill station, etc. So toll collections also indicate a recovery. Higher railway freight transportation, yes, that also indicates a recovery. And higher digital transactions, yes, that also indicates a recovery. And again, some of you will fight me with this regarding this particular point. Please understand, the finance minister, this is a viewpoint of the government and it is correct, right? What is the idea of higher digital transactions here? If people start purchasing more and more goods and services, right, because their incomes have started increasing, or they are guaranteed about the status of the economy, their job status, obviously they will purchase more and more goods and services. And as a result of that, we have got accustomed to the concept of digital transactions now. We will make lot of transactions or payments through digital methods. So high digital transactions also indicate a recovery in the economy. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, all of them indicate a V-shaped recovery in the economy, and the option, right option for this question will be option D. Now before you start to get worried, sir, you only covered one graph, you skipped one more graph. There is also an argument that in case of India, no, there is no V-shaped recovery, there is rather a K-shaped recovery. Right? What do you mean by K-shaped recovery? Understand the logic here. These two lines, there are two lines, I hope you can see this. There are two lines. Both of these lines represent two different set of sectors. I'll repeat my statement. Both of these two lines represent different set of sectors. For example, this particular blue line or the darker color line would represent, let's say, pharmaceuticals in the recent times, or service sector. What kind of service sector? Financial sector. Please understand my statement very carefully. Service sector, specifically financial sector. They have performed very well during the pandemic, right? Even during the pandemic and after the pandemic, they have performed very well. But on the other hand, for example, hospitality services, tourism sector, civil aviation market, the performance of these particular sectors has become worse. It has become much worse, right? During pandemic, it was a problem. Even after pandemic, many of these particular companies are struggling to generate revenues. So what you can see is the recovery is happening, but it is happening in some of the sectors. In other sectors, the situation is becoming much and much worse. This kind of a recovery is called as a K-shaped recovery. So there are two viewpoints here. Government of India says we are having a V-shaped recovery. You go ahead with this. But if there's a critical evaluation question, you can also mention that there is also counter argument to this. That is, there is a K-shaped recovery. Let me go to the next article or next question now. Which of the following indicates a pro-cyclical fiscal policy during the period of expansion in the economy? Understand the statements very, very carefully. Which of the following indicates a pro-cyclical fiscal policy during the period of expansion in the economy? The economy is booming, the economy is expanding. During that period, if government takes a stance that is a pro-cyclical stance, which of the following would indicate that? Lowering taxes, increasing taxes, lowering expenditure and increasing expenditure. You will have to find out which of the combination is correct here. First and foremost, what do you mean by pro-cyclical fiscal policy? Pro-cyclical, and there is one more term, counter-cyclical. I'll repeat the statement here. Pro-cyclical is one term, second one is counter-cyclical. Pro means, remember this, pro means in support of the stage in the economy. Whatever stage is there in the economy, whether economy is going through recession or economy is booming, whatever policies that are taken by the government will either intensify recession or will further boost growth in the economy. I'll repeat my statement. Pro-cyclical simply means we are going to basically support whatever stage or whatever experience is there in the economy. For example, economy is booming, means what? GDP is increasing. Investment is already high in the economy. So if I say pro-cyclical policy there, government will also invest, government will increase, right, the addition of investment to the economy. So the investment will increase, the growth will be further moving upwards, or GDP will be further expanding. On the other hand, during recession, private sector will not invest. Unemployment rate is very, very high. government also will reduce its expenditure. Government will also not spend money. Government will keep money with itself. Government will not create jobs. Government will not create employment in the economy. That is basically we are intensifying recession in the economy. So that is a basic idea for pro and counter. Counter means what? Exactly opposite. We want to counter the stage of growth in the economy. If it is recession, government should spend money. If it is let's say the growth or boom phase or expansion phase, government should reduce its expenditure, take out lot of money from the economy. Now some of you will basically say, sir, during let's say boom phase, during expansion phase, you say that a pro-cyclical policy means what? Government will increase investment, government will increase expenditure, and during counter-cyclical, right, that is during the expansion phase itself, counter-cyclical means government will reduce its investment, government will reduce its expenditure. Don't you think if government reduces its expenditure, growth would be affected? Please understand the logic here. Whenever the growth is already happening, what is the underlying concept here? Growth is already happening. There is expansion in the economy. And whenever there is an expansion in the economy, I hope you remember yesterday's lecture, there is always a concern that there is going to be an inflation rate in the market. If there is a boom, there is always a concern of having a higher inflation rate. Now, if everybody is investing, everybody is purchasing goods and services because incomes are increasing during an expansion phase or a boom phase, then don't you think there is a danger of inflation in the economy? Economy will basically overheat. So, Government of India says, let me counter. Let me stabilize the demand in the market. How can I do that? Reduce my expenditure, increase the tax rates. Increase the tax rates, reduce the expenditure. So have a look at this. A table I have given here. Have a look at the table. During recession, during expansion. Now you ask me, sir, what do you mean by recession here? Any economy which registers a negative growth rate. Remember this. Any economy which registers a negative growth rate for 2 consecutive quarters. For 2 consecutive quarters, that is basically said to be a stage of recession. We'll say economy is going through recession. So whenever there is a recession or expansion opposite to each other, pro-cyclical means what? During recession, pro-cyclical means government will reduce its expenditure, government will increase the tax rates. So what is the impact of increasing tax rates? Imagine you are earning 100. Out of that 10 rupees is the tax. So how much money I will have to spend? A disposable income will be how much? 90 rupees. Now rather than 10 rupees, government will increase it to 20 rupees. That is what the government is doing. Government will increase it to 20 rupees. How much money I will have? 80 rupees. So already the demand is less. Government increases taxes. What do you think will happen to demand? Demand will further go down. We will further enter into more and more rates of or higher rates of recession. And if the recession is not controlled, continuously happens for let's say 3 years, we'll simply refer to this as a depression. So I've given a table, have a look at this. I'll just give you in a nutshell. During recession, pro-cyclical means government will reduce expenditure, increase the tax rates. During recession, counter-cyclical means government will increase the expenditure, reduce the taxes. And on the other hand, during expansion, pro-cyclical means government will increase expenditure, reduce the taxes, and counter-cyclical during expansion means government should reduce the expenditure, increase the taxes. Overall, the idea is government should be acting in such a way that there is no overheating of the economy, inflation will not be caused, and if there is a recession in the economy, government should be promoting recovery in the economy. That is the important role of the government, and that is the reason they will simply use a statement, government policies should be generally a counter-cyclical policy. I'll repeat my statement here. Government policies should generally be counter-cyclical. They should be counter-cyclical. That is the argument here. Okay, let's go back to the question here. Which of the following indicates a pro-cyclical fiscal policy during the period of expansion? Economy is growing already. Private sector is investing already. So should the government increase the investment? Should they spend more? Should they cause inflation? No. So what they are supposed to do? Reduce the expenditure. Reduce expenditure and increase the taxes. Reduce the expenditure, increase the taxes. Done? Okay, just a second. We are asking about pro-cyclical. Let me correct here. This will be counter-cyclical. What I said just now would be counter-cyclical. I said pro-cyclical. Which of the following should be a pro-cyclical policy? Which of the following factors will lead to a pro-cyclical policy during expansion? Meaning already investment is there. Government will support. Government will also invest more. Just make a correction here. Increase expenditure and lower the taxes. Increase expenditure and lower the taxes. If it is pro-cyclical, they will lower taxes, increase expenditure. If it is counter-cyclical, then they will increase taxes and lower the expenditure. So this is wrong because it becomes counter-cyclical. So lowering the taxes, increasing the expenditure, 1 and 4. Option B is the right one. Option B is the right one for this particular question. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding Retail Direct Guilt Scheme, RDGS. Very important. In the last 2 years, this has been appearing in the newspaper. So far, UPSC has not asked this, hence very, very important. What is this idea of a Retail Direct Guilt Scheme, RDG scheme? Let me explain it to you. Imagine here is an individual investor. Here is an individual investor or retail investor. Retail investor means me and you. So this individual investor, if they want to invest in, let's say, government securities, if the retail investor wants to invest in government securities, earlier there was a different model altogether to purchase such government securities, right? That is, there was a model called as aggregator model. NSE and BSE, both of them had a platform, that is simple terms, website. I will log on to that particular website, right? Basically raise my demand, pay the amount, and they will basically purchase these particular government securities from RBI, give it to me. Earlier that was the aggregator model. Today we are not using that particular aggregator model. RBI has introduced the concept of Retail Direct Guilt Scheme, under which the system is very simple. This individual investor can open an account. Under the scheme, they can open an account which is called as Retail Direct Guilt Account, RDG account. The retail investor can simply open a Retail Direct Guilt account with Reserve Bank of India and subscribe and purchase these particular government securities. Subscribe or purchase these particular government securities. So this is a basic idea of a Retail Direct Guilt account. But for this, RBI says this retail investor or individual investor must have bank account. Must have bank account, PAN card should be there, etc. Certain conditions are there. Why bank account is required here? Please understand this. The individual, whenever he will purchase the G securities, the payment has to be done through the bank account itself. The payment has to be done through bank account. That is the reason RBI says bank account for this Retail Direct Guilt account is compulsory. Now, what about the retail investors? Are only Indian investors allowed? Can foreign investors, non-resident individual investors, can they invest through the Retail Direct Guilt account? Answer to this is correct, they are allowed. Right? If they comply with certain conditions, they are allowed to invest through the Retail Direct Guilt account into government securities. Done? This is there in the newspaper. Please be very, very careful. And what kind of securities can you purchase? When I have written the concept of G securities there, you can purchase sovereign gold bond, you can purchase the dated securities, treasury bills, etc. Right? All of these particular G securities you can purchase through the concept of Retail Direct Guilt account. Now, what is the statement given in the question? It is for the institutional investors to purchase the corporate bonds. No, this statement is wrong. This scheme is available only for the resident investors. Only for the resident investors. Wrong. Now, what do you mean by this? Resident investors simply means individual investors from India. right? Those who are residing in India, this feature is available or this scheme is available for only them. No, even non-resident investors, like I've said, if they comply with certain conditions, they are also allowed to invest through the RDG scheme. So even this particular statement is wrong. Both the statements are wrong. So right option will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. So please go through this particular scheme. Lot of times this is there in the newspapers. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding microfinance. Consider the following statements regarding microfinance. Now this is there in the newspapers for a very simple reason. RBI very recently has made certain changes with regards to regulation of microfinancing industry. First and foremost, you need to understand what do you mean by microfinance now. RBI has basically stated, have a look at this, unsecured loans. Unsecured loans which are given irrespective of the end use will now be classified as micro loans. I will repeat my statement here. Unsecured loans irrespective of the end use, now will be classified as micro loans. It will be classified as a micro loan. Now understand certain more very important points here. What do you mean by unsecured? Right? What is the meaning of unsecured? There are two terms, secured and unsecured. And you will come across the terms of unsecured and unsecured in the context of insolvency and bankruptcy code also. The basic idea is simple. Imagine I will take a loan from you, hypothetically. By the way, okay, hypothetically. I am not asking for a loan, hypothetically. So imagine the class is over, 9:30. You will get out of the room. You will keep on scolding me, blaming me, economics so difficult, how should I remember, etc., etc. You want to go out, bring certain parcel, right, to home, food that is, and you want to eat. So you will open the door, I am standing in front of your home. I'll say, can you please give me a loan of 100 rupee? Now you will simply say, yes sir, I will give you a loan of 100, but what is the guarantee that you will repay it? Then I'll simply show my car to you and say, this car is a guarantee. If I don't repay it, you can simply take away the car. So what I've done? I've provided a security, I've provided a collateral and taken loan from you. That kind of a loan or credit is called as secured credit or secured loan. Now, in another situation, I'll ask the same thing. Can you give me a loan of 100 rupee? You will tell me, sir, how should I know that you will repay it back? I'll simply tell you, right, don't you know me? Right, you have just watched me over YouTube. I've been coming on the YouTube for so many years. Right, please trust me, give me a loan. So you will say, okay, right, sir, take it. Right, don't do so much natak, please take it. That is the type of loan which you have given, which is unsecured. So which one do you think is risky in this? Unsecured loans? All of you will agree? Which one do you think is risky? Unsecured loans are risky. Done? Anyways, so have a look at this. What is a micro loan in the first place? Micro loans are those kind of unsecured loans which are provided without worrying about the end use of the loan. How they are used, that is not your concern. You will not be worried about the end use of the loan. You will simply give the loan and you will not collect any security, any collateral. Such loans are referred to as the micro loans. Now you will simply raise one more question. Sir, in that case, I will go to a bank, I take an unsecured loan, right, and the bank will simply not ask me anything, give me a loan. Will it be classified as a micro loan? No. You will have to satisfy the first condition also. You will have to satisfy the first condition. What is the first condition? RBI says, those particular loans which are given to the households which have an annual income of up to 3 lakh rupees. Those loans which are provided to the households which have an annual income of up to 3 lakh rupees. Please remember this number. Why? I'll tell you. Earlier, in case of urban India, this classification, right? How do you give micro loans to which household? The threshold classification was annually 2 lakh rupees. Whereas in case of a rural India, it was annually 1.25 lakh crore rupees. 1.25 lakh rupees, not crore, 1.25 lakh rupees. So that was the threshold criteria earlier. RBI has changed it. Uniform criteria whether you are urban household or rural household. Remember this, uniform criteria now. Right, so uniform criteria threshold is up to 3 lakh rupees. Not just this, it also says the maximum value of the loan that you can provide to such households. It is dependent on the amount of earnings that is done by the household. I'll give an example, just give me a minute. The maximum value of the loans that you provide to households will be connected to what is the annual earnings of this household. Sir, what do you mean by this? RBI simply says, when these households will take loans, they will repay the loans. That is the whole idea. They will take loans, give back the loans. But when they repay the loans, monthly they will pay interest. The amount of interest or amount of repayment that they do should not be more than 50% of their monthly income. I'll repeat the statement here. The amount of payment, that is in terms of repayment that they are doing, should not be more than 50% of their monthly income. You should give loan up to that extent itself, so that their repayment will not cross more than 50% of monthly income. Right? So that is one more condition. It's not just this. Earlier interest rates, there was a formula for deciding the interest rate in case of microfinancing. Earlier the formula was like, whatever is your cost of funds plus 10% of the cost of the funds. Or there was one more formula used, the average cost of funds into 2.75 times, whichever is the higher number like this. So earlier there was a different methodology to calculate interest rate, but now RBI simply says, no, I will not focus on this. The banks, whoever is giving, NBFCs or the commercial banks, whoever is giving this particular micro loans, the board of the bank will have to decide the lending rate. But if RBI wants, RBI will intervene. In simple terms, interest rates can be decided by the lender now, but it will be under the scrutiny, under the supervision of Reserve Bank of India. So these are some of the very, very important conditions that RBI has announced very recently regarding microfinancing. Now what is the question here? RBI will be fixing the rate of interest on loans given under this. Statement is wrong. The income limit for urban households is higher compared to rural households to get micro loans or microfinance. Earlier the statement would have been correct. Now this particular statement is wrong. So both the statements are wrong. Right option will be option D, neither one nor two. Let me go to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding RBIH. RBIH in simple terms is nothing but Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. Very recently RBI has announced setting up of Reserve Bank Innovation Hub in Bangalore. And this is not new. It was being discussed by RBI for the last 2 years. What is this RBI Innovation Hub? It is, remember this first point, it is a subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. Means what? Any amount of investment that has been done on this Innovation Hub comes from RBI, 100 crore rupees. And second point, the role of Innovation Hub is very simple. There are many institutions, financial institutions mind you, which are there in the Indian system. The RBI Innovation Hub will help these, handhold these particular startups or other institutions to create more products which will help in promoting financial inclusion. Right? And apart from this, what you need to understand in this particular context is, what are the other subsidiaries of Reserve Bank of India? This can be a potential question for UPSC Prelims. What are the other subsidiaries of Reserve Bank of India? RBI Innovation Hub is the latest one, 5th subsidiary. But before this, these are the 4 other very important subsidiaries under Reserve Bank of India. Out of these 4, you will have to remember the 2 very, very important ones. First one is DICGC. There is a question on this. We'll understand it later. Second one is BRB NMPL. We'll have a discussion related to this when I talk about questions on currencies in India. The third one is REBIT. Right? And the fourth one is IFTAS, Indian Financial Technology and Allied Services. So remember the list. Question can be asked, which of the following are the subsidiaries of Reserve Bank of India? Now, look at the statements. It will be wholly owned a subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. Statement is correct. 100% of ownership lies with Reserve Bank of India. Second, have a look at this. Yesterday we have discussed Section 8 company. I just try to recall where we have discussed this yesterday. Right, in the context of GST network, in the context of another authority, right, that is a National Anti-Profiting Authority, etc. We have discussed this. You will have to remember all of it. has been set up as Section 8 company under the Companies Act. The statement is also true. Second statement is also true. It is a Section 8 company. Whatever profits are generated, again it will invest it back. So both the statements are true. So right option will be option C, both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Okay, let me go to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding All India Financial Institutions. AIFI basically stands for All India Financial Institutions. What are the examples of All India Financial Institutions? NABARD, SIDBI, Exim Bank. Right? These are some of the examples of All India Financial Institutions. What are the statements given here? These are regulated by Reserve Bank of India. What do you think? Right? Is Exim Bank under the regulation of RBI? Is NABARD Bank under the regulation of Reserve Bank of India? The statement is correct. These are regulated by Reserve Bank of India. Second, AIFIs are set up under AIFI Act of 1949. I will be tempted to tick it correct. Why? Sir, name is All India Financial Institution. Act is also All India Financial Institution. But the statement is wrong. Statement is wrong. Why? Whenever you talk about these All India Financial Institutions, the government of India has passed respective acts, and under the respective acts, these All India Financial Institutions have been set up. Done. So second statement is wrong. AIFIs are supposed to meet Basel guideline requirement. This is the precise reason I have given this particular question. Why? Whenever you discuss about banking, the concept of banking, either scheduled commercial bank, payment bank, etc., you will definitely come across the concept of Basel guidelines. Right? What are these particular Basel guidelines? The Basel is a place in Switzerland. Remember this. Basel is a place in Switzerland. And in this particular place, there is one institution, Bank of International Settlement, BIS. India is a member of it. And within this particular BIS, Bank of International Settlement, there is one committee, Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. India is a member of that also. And what is the role of Basel Committee on Banking Supervision? The Basel Committee will keep on coming out with guidelines which will regulate or which will basically help in protecting financial health of the banking sector. I'll repeat it. The Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, the role is very simple. They will come out with guidelines which are applicable for banking sector. The Basel Committee doesn't recommend what should be the fiscal deficit of the government. It doesn't recommend what should be the disinvestment policy of the government. No, it will not be recommended by Basel. Basel Committee will recommend what should be, let's say, the capital adequacy of a bank. What should be the liquidity coverage ratio of a bank? How much should be the tier 1 capital? How much should be the tier 2 capital, etc. like this. And very recently, remember this is the point in the current affairs now. RBI has stated all India financial institutions will have to meet Basel guidelines. They will also have to meet Basel III guidelines. They will have to implement Basel guidelines. Done. So that is the reason I have given this particular statement. In case of scheduled commercial banks, SCBs, Basel guidelines are already implemented. Right? Again, first and second round we have implemented. Third one, we are in the process of implementing. The Basel III, we are in the process of implementing now. But in addition to the scheduled commercial banks, AIFIs now also will have to implement Basel guidelines. This was there in the newspaper. Please be very, very careful. Third statement is correct. So 1 and 3 are correct. Right option will be option C here. Argument is very simple here. Generally, Basel, you have read it, you have discussed it, you have seen it in the newspaper in the context of banks. But suddenly UPSC will throw this kind of a question at you and you will be tempted to say, no sir, right? Nowhere I have read all India financial institutions along with Basel guidelines like this. So you tend to say this is wrong. But no, RBI says they will have to implement it now. So third statement is correct. First one is correct. Right option will be option C, 1 and 3. Let me go to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding legal tender. Right, consider the following statements regarding legal tender. First statement, RBI has the right to print and mint the currency notes and the coins under the Coinage Act. What do you think about this statement? Do you think the statement is correct, or do you think statement is wrong? Statement is wrong. Statement is wrong, right? Why? Understand the basics here. Understand the basics. RBI functions are very, very important. Guaranteed questions will come from RBI functions. Whenever you talk about coins, first and foremost, we use the term minting. We use the term minting. And whenever you talk about the currency notes, right, we talk about printing. The difference is clear? Coins, minting; currency notes, printing. Minting, the right of minting coins or the power of minting coins has been given to government. Government of India is responsible for minting of coins. And currency notes printing has been given as a right to Reserve Bank of India, RBI. RBI is involved in printing of currency notes. Understand my statement here. RBI is responsible, no doubt, for printing of currency notes. It doesn't mean that RBI individually will take a decision. No. Whenever they want to print currency notes, what RBI generally does is prepares a report, sends it to Ministry of Finance, and once the approval is provided, after the concurrence of the Finance Ministry, RBI starts printing the currency notes. And some of you, right, I get this particular question in every class. Some of you might be thinking, sir, because there is so much of poverty in India, why doesn't RBI print currency and give it to every one of us? We'll be so happy. Why doesn't RBI do that? Argument is very simple. If RBI does that, all of us will have money. What about the goods and services? Do you think sufficient goods and services are being produced and supplied according to money supply? No. That will cause inflation in the economy. That is the reason RBI doesn't keep on printing currency notes and gives it to everyone. Because every time I do this, students will ask me this question. Why don't we do it? We have printing machines. RBI has the right. We have paper, we have ink, we have poor people also. If you can't say poor, please look at me, give the notes to me. I will not complain, you will say. Right? So argument is, you can't do that. You simply can't do that. If you do that, the whole system will be thrown into imbalance. Sir, any example where this has actually happened? Venezuela. Venezuela, right? In case of Venezuela, this is exactly what happened. They took the currency notes, added 2 more zeros, issued them in the market, gave it to people. But if you simply add 2 more zeros, for example, 100 rupee note will become 10,000 rupee note. But does it mean the production also has increased from 100 to 10,000 rupees? That is, the supply also has increased. No. All of us will have money now. Where is the production? Where is the supply? That will cause a destabilizing impact. So notes are printed by RBI. Currency coins are minted by Government of India. And whenever you talk about this, there is also a speciality in this, except 1 rupee note. Except 1 rupee note. And every time the students will ask me this question also. Sir, why? Why 1 rupee note is not printed by RBI? Logic is very simple. For all the intents and purposes, 1 rupee note is counted as a coin. For all the purposes, right, under the Coinage Act, the 1 rupee note will be counted as a coin, not as a note. That is the reason it is minted by Government of India. I'm sorry, it is printed by Government of India, right? So it will fall under the purview of government. Done? Now, where these notes are printed, where these coins are minted, that is for you to find out. That is for you to find out. Right? So please be very, very careful. Questions can be asked. Question can be asked from that particular area. Now look at the statement here. RBI has the right to print and mint the currency notes and coins under the Coinage Act. Statement is straightforward wrong. Second, the currency coins and notes have unlimited legal tender. Unlimited legal tender. Right? What do you mean by unlimited legal tender here? There are two terms. Limited legal tender, unlimited legal tender. Now some of you might be thinking, sir, why are you discussing this? There is a reason. The reason is, very recently Government of India has announced that we are going to change the design of coins. Is it okay? Government of India couple of months ago announced that we will have a new design of the coins now. So obviously the concept of coins, notes, everything becomes important. So what is the argument here? the currency coins and notes have unlimited legal tender. What do you mean by this? Imagine, right, you are a seller, you're selling certain goods in the market, right? Let's say you're having a laptop shop. I will come to your shop, I will purchase, right, a laptop as well as a mobile phone. The total bill is, right, again, don't worry, right, total bill is, let's say, 2 lakh rupees. So you will say, sir, thank you for purchasing from us. Here, take 2 lakh rupees bill. Please pay me now. Right, take the product, pay me the bill. So what I'll do, I will go to the vehicle that I brought or the auto that is standing nearby. I will take out a bag. The bag is full of, let's say, 50 paisa coins, so 1 rupee coins. I will bring it, put it on the counter and say, sir, here, count it. If there is anything excess more than 2 lakh rupees, please give it back to me. Count it. I'm sure it is 2 lakh rupees. If there is anything extra, 50 paisa extra is there, please give it back to me. First thing what you will do is, you will hit me. I can understand whether you will accept it or not, that's a different fact altogether. You will first hit me. I will be running around in your store, you will keep on running behind me, hitting me. And not just this, you will call your workers also, employees also, ask them to hit me much harder. And second argument here is, can I make that payment? Is it possible? I'm sorry, is it correct? Is it allowed in the economy? No. Please understand, such kind of payments are not allowed. Why? RBI has a concept of limited, unlimited legal tender. First and foremost, what do you mean by legal tender? Whenever I purchase, I'm supposed to pay you. Is it okay? I'm supposed to pay you. That is the whole idea of a transaction in the economy. So I'm supposed to pay you, which also means there is a debt transaction. Debt means I owe money to you, I'm supposed to pay you money. That is, whenever the debt is there, the debt can be satisfied by paying this. This is called as a legal tender. But can I use 50 paisa coins or 1 rupee coins to pay off my debt? Absolutely no. The coins generally have a very, very low applicability of a legal tender. That is, they will say that it has a limited legal tender, meaning a coin such as 1 rupee coin can be used to pay off a maximum 10 rupee transaction. Is it okay? A coin such as 1 rupee coin or 50 paisa coin can be used to pay off a debt or a liability of maximum 10 rupees. Beyond that, you are not allowed to use it. Sir, I will purchase, let's say 5 lakh rupees worth of goods. I will bring the coins in a gunny bag, put it on the counter, you count it. No, not allowed. But on the other hand, currency notes. On the other hand, currency notes. These have got unlimited legal tender. That is, any transaction value, you can always use the currency notes to pay for the transaction. Of course, government regulations are different. Right? When I say any value of transaction, don't say, sir, you are wrong there. Government says maximum 2 lakh rupees. Agreed. And that is a restriction. But earlier, before this rule was implemented, earlier you purchased 10 lakh rupees worth of the goods. I could simply pay off in the currency notes of 500 rupee or 1000 rupee earlier. I am talking about earlier, that is the reason. Right, so that is the argument. Coins are legal tender, limited legal tender. Currency notes, unlimited legal tender. So the currency coins and notes have unlimited legal tender. Statement is wrong. Right option will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding UPI Pay Now. UPI Pay Now. Now what is this idea for UPI Pay Now? Right, yesterday also we have discussed certain aspects of UPI. Today also I will discuss certain questions related to, again, current affairs related to UPI itself. The concept of UPI Pay Now, please do not misunderstand this if it is asked in UPSC, because there are so many current affairs regarding UPI, you might get confused. UPI Pay Now is not a digital payment system in India. It's not like, let's say, UPI 123 Pay or UPI Lite, etc. No, it is not that. UPI is owned by NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. It is a type of digital payment system. In the same way, just like RBI is there in case of India, in case of Singapore, the authority is Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS. Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS. So have a look at this. Right, so MAS and RBI have signed an agreement now to join UPI as well as Pay Now. I'll repeat my statement. Reserve Bank of India and the MAS, that is the Monetary Authority of Singapore, have signed an agreement to join both, that is UPI and PayNow. What is the advantage here? You want to transfer certain funds to Singapore now, it can be done very, very easily. In fact, have a look at this particular picture. Have a look at this particular picture. Fund transfers from India can be done to Singapore and from Singapore to India. Sir, is there any benefit? I will tell you. There is a scheme which has been launched by RBI, Liberalized Remittances Scheme, LRS, Liberalized Remittances Scheme. Under LRS, annually an individual from India can take out up to $2.5 lakh. I will repeat my statement here. Under LRS, an individual can take out, can basically ensure that $2.5 lakh can be taken out of India. Annually it is allowed. But when you take $2.5, do not imagine that you will purchase $2.5, put it in a suitcase and take it. No, that is not how system works. You will have to transfer, first convert these particular rupees into dollars, again done through the account, and these dollars will be credited into your account. But when you transfer these particular dollars outside India like this, certain bank charges would be imposed, and that particular bank charges on an average comes at around 3,000 rupees. So you are supposed to pay money for that and utilize these particular transmission services like this. Now to overcome this, RBI and MAS have signed an agreement, and as per this particular agreement, funds can be transferred easily from Singapore to India, India to Singapore now. You don't have to pay charges. You don't have to run behind your friend to give him money so that he will, when you will come to India, he will search your parents or your home and go and give the money to your parents like this. You don't have to be worried about all of this. That is the advantage of this connection or this agreement between RBI as well as MAS. Now, have a look at this. Are the digital payment systems of RBI and MAS which have decided to link them? Correct. Which have decided to link both of them. Statement is correct. And second one, once done, funds can be transferred from Singapore to India using UPI VPA. What is this VPA? I have given it here. Have a look at this. It can be done by using virtual payment address. It can be done using virtual payment address. That is the basic idea of the transfers which can be done from Singapore to India and India to Singapore. And be very careful with respect to this also. From Singapore to India, from Singapore to India, you will use UPI virtual payment address. But on the other hand, if you want to transfer, if you want to transfer from India, to let's say Singapore, then you can simply do it through the mobile phone numbers itself. So you can basically get your app, integrate it with MAS, that is PayNow, and start transferring funds using all of this. Now some of you might be thinking, sir, many of the times when you have discussed the concept of UPI, you said it is owned by NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India. Statement is correct, it is owned by NPCI. But NPCI is owned by whom? Reserve Bank of India. Remember this. NPCI is owned by whom? Reserve Bank of India. That is the reason RBI is signing this agreement. Don't be under confusion here. So, first statement, correct. Once done, funds can be transferred from Singapore to India using UPI, the virtual private address, So, that is also correct. So, both the statements are true. Right option will be option C, both 1 and 2. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding PSL certificates. PSL certificates, A lot of times this is there in the current affairs. Please be very, very careful. Sir, why did you take up this particular question? Very recently, there was one survey which was conducted, which says that the PSL target which are supposed to be met by the public sector banks, annually, one public sector bank out of 12 we have. By the way, remember this. Right now we have 12 public sector banks. Some of the books that you have read would have given 19, 20, 26, etc. Forget, Forget about it. All of that is outdated data now. As per the latest information published by Government of India, we have 12 PSBs, 12 public sector banks. So generally, one of these particular public sector banks doesn't meet the PSL threshold limit or PSL target. What is this PSL? PSL stands for Priority Sector Lending. Generally, when you discuss about functions of RBI, we will divide the functions of RBI under multiple heads, but one of them is monetary policy or credit control policy, monetary policy or credit control tools or policy. And these particular credit control tools are divided again under two heads, right? One is called as a quantitative set of tools or general methods, and the second one is qualitative set of tools or specific methods, quantitative and qualitative. And under qualitative, one of them is priority sector lending, and you will read about priority sector lending under the concept of rationing of credit. What is the meaning of rationing of credit? Distribution of credit, allocation of credit. Now the idea of PSL is very simple. Reserve Bank of India says 40% of the credit or adjusted net bank credit that you are going to issue in a particular year will have to go to following sectors. What kind of sectors are covered? Agriculture sector, MSMEs, startups, housing infrastructure, export credit, student loans, weaker sections of the society, etc. like this. So there are 8 sectors which are covered, and you will have to meet 40% target totally in 8 sectors, and individually for some of these particular sectors target is again given. For example, in out of total loans given, right, understand this, 40% is this, and 18% of total loans given within PSL itself, 18% of the total loans given, that is A and B, C, the banks will have to ensure it will go to the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector, that is a condition. And also remember this, is this 40% uniform for every bank in India? That would be again wrong. Be very, very careful with respect to these kind of statements. If they say 40% uniform for all the banks in India, no, that would be wrong. Why? RRBs, PSL is 75%. The small finance banks, PSL rate is 75% there. So please be very careful with respect to these kind of sweeping statements given by UPSC. And what is the argument here? Annually you will have to, in a particular year you will have to meet these particular targets. Some banks don't meet. And if you don't meet, what is the way out then? What is the way forward if you don't meet? One option that is available to them is they will purchase PSL certificates, PSLCs or PSL certificates. There are generally 4 types of PSL certificates which are available in the market. That is, there is a PSL certificate for micro enterprises, there is a PSL certificate for small and marginal farmers, PSL certificates for agriculture sector, PSL certificates general. 4 types of certificates: PSLC, micro enterprise, PSLC, small and marginal farmers, PSLC, agriculture sector, and PSLC general. Right, sir, why these kind of terminologies are given? Very simple. General means if you don't meet overall target, you can purchase these PSL certificates. Small and marginal farmer, there is a target for small and marginal farmer, that is 8% has to be met by giving loans to small and marginal farmer, which is expected to increase now. So argument is the banks don't meet these particular targets. In that case, what they will do? They will simply purchase PSL certificates from other banks. For example, imagine one bank is there which has given loans, PSL loans totally, right, how much? I'll just throw an arbitrary number, let's say 42 crore rupees, and the target under PSL for them was 40 crore rupees. So extra 2 crore rupees worth of PSL loans have been issued by this particular bank. And on the other hand, imagine there is one more bank which was supposed to meet a target of 80 crore rupees, but they are able to give loans worth only 78 crores under PSL. So this bank will sell PSL certificates. Remember this. This bank will sell PSL certificates and this bank will purchase. Sir, what is the advantage here? This bank doesn't have to give 2 crore rupee loans. They'll simply purchase 2 crore rupees worth of PSL certificates. What is the advantage of this particular bank? When they will sell the certificate, they will charge a certain commission. They'll charge certain commission, they will also earn. So this bank will earn certain amount of money by giving excess PSL loans. This bank doesn't give loan, but it will meet the target. That is the concept of PSL certificate. But please understand this, certificates are given like this, loans are not given. 2 crore rupee loans will not be transferred here. 2 crore worth of PSL certificates are transferred. Generally, the PSL certificate, for every one of them, the value will be 25 lakh rupees. 25 lakh rupees. So, in this case, 8 PSL certificates will be sold right to the second bank. Now, PSL certificates are traded through eKuber. Statement is correct. eKuber, by the way, is a platform. Either you can remember the term platform or a core banking solution platform. CBS means core banking solution platform, right, which has been implemented by Reserve Bank of India. Statement is true. With the transfer of PSL certificates, the loan assets are also transferred to the buyer bank. Loans are not transferred, simply the certificates are sold. Done? So, second statement is wrong. First one is correct. Right option is option A here. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding digital banking units. DBU basically stands for digital banking units. This was there very recently announced in the budget. Announced in the budget by the government, 75 digital banking units will be set up in 75 districts. This has been the announcement. Now, what do you mean by digital banking unit here? Let me start with an example just to make you understand this. Right now, when you go to a bank branch, assuming it is a private sector bank, not an SBI bank, because the SBI bank branch, I am pretty sure all of you have visited, how cordial the officers are, how supportive everybody is, starting from the watchman who will keep on staring at you from the gate itself. So, there is this argument that when you go to a branch, physical, right, infrastructure is developed, people are there, right, you will conduct transaction, either deposit money, withdraw money, take a loan, apply for a loan, apply for opening an account, etc. What government simply says is, right, the digital revolution will be used now and will push the concept of digital banking units to the districts, to the common man now. And under the digital banking units, which RBI has approved already, right, the banks can now set up the digital bank units. Under that, we are going to set up these particular digital bank units, branches like this, but the people will not be there, right, officials will not be there, rather machines will be installed. For example, imagine I want to deposit money. So, what I will do now, I will go to a bank, that is a branch, I will take a coupon, wait for my turn, right, the counter reader will say, or coupon reader will say my number, I will go, I will deposit money, the person is sitting there, they will give me the counterfoil, take it and go home. Now, in this particular case, when you talk about digital banking units, nothing of this sort will happen. No person, no cashier, etc. A counting machine will be there, or accepting machine is there, already many of the banks have it. Deposit machine is there, you need to choose which account number, etc., options are there. Deposit the money, they will give you, or the machine will give you a counterfoil. What about bank account opening? Again, one more kiosk is there, right? Just go to the kiosk, choose the option accordingly, enter the data, process would be conducted. So, the idea is, understand this very carefully, whether the bank is supposed to provide the services on the asset side or the services on the liability side, that is giving a loan. Loan is an asset side, right? Liability, accepting currency, deposits for a bank are liability. So, whether the bank is going to provide services on the asset sides or liability side, all of those will be done through machines now, will be done through kiosks. That is the concept of digital banking unit. Now, DBUs will have to provide the digital services on asset side as well as the liability side of the balance sheet. Statement is correct. Cash withdrawal and cash deposit only, underline the term only, because some of you will say, sir, earlier I have gone to a bank, the bank, and the people there said, that is the bank official said, you don't have to come to the bank branch to deposit money, you can simply go to the machine which is there, deposit the money. So, it is already there. What is the difference? The difference is, in case of DBUs, digital banking units, the deposit of the money as well as withdrawal of the money has to happen only through ATM machines as well as deposit machines, right? There is no option for you. You will have to either deposit through these machines or accept the money from these machines. There will be no human interface here. Statement is correct. The banks are to take the approval from the banking regulator to open DBOs. Banking regulator, by the way, Reserve Bank of India. The banks are supposed to take the approval. Understand this very carefully. Looking at the statement, you will realize, yes, RBI is the regulator, so they will have to take the approval. No, statement is wrong, by the way. Why? RBI has allowed only those particular banks now which already have an experience with digital banking services. I will repeat my statement. RBI says those banks which already have experience in digital banking services, they can open digital banking units. And because you already have experience there, you do not need my approval. You don't have to take my approval. Please go ahead, set up these particular DBUs. So third statement is wrong. Which of the statements are correct regarding DBUs? 1 and 2. Option B is the right option. Option B is the right one here. Let me go to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding payment banks. Will have to maintain the CRR and SLR at the same levels as prescribed to public sector banks. The payment banks are often there in the news. Please be very, very careful. Last year, right, Aditya Birla company had a payment bank. They said we are unable to perform or we are unable to generate revenues in the payment bank. Please accept our license back. We will shut down the payment bank. That is the reason this becomes important. Second reason, most of the books that you people are reading will tell you payment banks can accept deposits up to 1 lakh rupees. RBI has changed it. Please change it to 2 lakh rupees now. It is 2 lakh rupees. Please update the information. So consider the following statements regarding payment banks. Will have to maintain the CRR and SLR at the same levels as prescribed for the PSBs. Will the payment banks maintain CRR and SLR? Yes, they will maintain. Any bank that becomes part of scheduled commercial bank, they will have to maintain CRR and SLR as prescribed by Reserve Bank of India. But RBI, remember this, the SLR level for the payment banks, right, and the CRR are different. Right, they are different for these particular banks. For example, right, the payment banks will have to take 100% of their deposits and they will have to invest. They will have to invest 75% of this. They will have to invest 75% of this in case of government securities. In case of government securities, whereas in the context of the public sector banks, if you have 100 crore rupees NDTL, net demand time liabilities, SLR is somewhere around 18%. Whatever the exact number, don't worry. It is somewhere around 18%. So out of that 18%, you will have to invest in the approved securities such as government securities. So will the payment banks maintain CRR and SLR? Yes. But is it at the same level as a public sector bank? Answer is no. They do not face credit risk. What do you mean by credit risk? Basel guidelines classifies 3 types of risks. I'll repeat my statement. Under Basel guidelines, there are 3 types of risks. One is called as a credit risk. Loan is given by the bank. The borrower doesn't repay the loan. Is it okay? First one, very simple. The loan is given by the bank. The borrower doesn't repay the loan. Right? So obviously what will happen? It is a credit risk. Second one is a market risk. The bank would have invested in the market and the market volatility will affect and lead to losses for this particular bank. That is called as a market risk. And the third one is operational or systemic risk, which simply means the bank will face losses because of certain systems, processes or people. So there are 3 types of risk which are basically classified in the context of the banking sector under Basel. Now have a look at the statement here. They do not face credit risk. Statement is true. Why? Payment banks will not give you loans. Is it okay? Payment banks do not give you loans. And when they don't give you loans, where is the question of the risk here? Where is the question of the risk? There is absolutely no risk. So credit risk is not there. They do not face credit risk. Statement is correct. Will have to maintain capital adequacy ratio of 15% under Basel. Statement is correct. Statement is correct. Capital adequacy ratio for the payment banks is 15%. Scheduled commercial banks 9%. Public sector banks 12%, payment banks 12%, 15%. Payment banks it is 15%. So remember, it is correct. Right now, some of you might be thinking, sir, if the payment banks are not going to give loans, why should they maintain capital adequacy ratio? Simple. You might not give a loan, so no credit risk. But will you face market risk? Yes. Will you face operational risk? Yes. So what if you incur losses because of that? Maintain capital adequacy ratio. So third statement is correct. First one is wrong. Second, third are correct. Right option will be option C, 2 and 3. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding UPI 123 pay. UPI 123 pay. Right? This is there in the current affairs. Hence I have picked it up. Now first and foremost, what do you mean by UPI 123 pay? Remember this. You need a smartphone for this. Just a second. Okay, you need, right, not smartphone. Just make a correction here. It is for feature phones. Not for a smartphone. UPI Lite, you will require a smartphone. Is it okay? UPI Lite, you will require smartphone. UPI 123 pay? No. Not only just smartphones, feature phones. This is specifically RBI says, I want the feature phones or the users of feature phones to make digital payments, digital transactions. Hence, I have introduced UPI 123 pay, feature phones. It is available for feature phones, right? Through feature phone, now you can make UPI transactions, that is UPI payments, such as, you can make UPI transactions such as, let's say, the financial transactions or non-financial transactions. That is a transfer of funds you can do, yes. You can recharge your FASTag, allowed. You can change the UPI pin, etc., etc., etc. So both financial as well as non-financial transactions you can do using a feature phone under UPI 123 pay. Basically, there are 4 methods. Remember the names of the methods. I don't expect UPSC to ask you a question on the individual methods, but under this 4 methods have been prescribed by RBI. One is basically IVR number, interactive voice response. IVR number, there is a number written, right? There is a number fixed. You'll have to make a call, right? From that side, you will get the voice response and the key in the numbers as per your requirement, and you can conduct a transaction. Sir, for example, whenever you call a customer care, there is an IVR response, right? Thanks for calling customer care. For English, press this. For Kannada, for Hindi, for Telugu, etc., etc., they will run like this. That is nothing but IVR. So you can call up a predefined number, right? You can follow the voice response, provide the codes and conduct the transaction. Second, missed call payment is also allowed now. There's a feature through missed call you can conduct a transaction, right? OEM enabled payments. And the fourth one is sound based technology payments. Again, more on this right now. For UPSC prelims you don't have to be worried, but later as it becomes more and more important, every newspaper will start reporting on this, but right now this is more than sufficient. Now look at the questions here. This facility is available for the smartphone users only. Statement is wrong, right? RBI says we are targeting feature phones. Sir, why is RBI targeting feature phones? Very simple. And before you start wondering, sir, yesterday you taught about the *99 hash, right? Already there is a feature available. Why is RBI doing this again? Don't you think RBI is wasting their time as well as our time? Because now we will have to keep on reading everything that RBI does. Argument is very simple. This is also used by feature phones, but customers are not favored for this. Customers are not using it. Reasons are multiple. One, they feel that is a very cumbersome process. Second, all the telecom service providers are not actually providing this service, and those who are providing, many of them are charging for this particular service. That is the reason this has not found favor amongst the feature phone users. RBI says, don't worry, I am here to rescue you people. I will launch one more tool called as UPI 123 Pay. This facility is available for smartphone users only. Wrong. Feature phones can also use this, or mainly targeted feature phones. Using this, customers are allowed to conduct only financial transactions. Even this statement is wrong. Financial as well as non-financial, both transactions can be conducted using this. So right option for this will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. Next, Central Banker or Reserve Bank of India has announced setting up of Digi Sathi, which is dash Fill in the blanks. DigiSathi is associated with what? Follow this very carefully. DigiSathi is a platform, or it is basically a helpline which has been launched by Reserve Bank of India. In fact, when you search later, don't do it now. When you search later, you will see that DigiSathi website has been launched by RBI. There is a particular phone number which has been given by RBI. If you have any issues regarding digital transactions, if you have any issues regarding digital transactions, that is the digital payments, you can simply use this particular facility of DigiSathi. Right, that particular facility has been very recently launched by Reserve Bank of India. In fact, both, that is UPI 123 Pay plus DigiSathi, both were launched simultaneously by Reserve Bank of India in the last couple of months. That is a basic idea. 24/7 helpline to address the queries of digital payment users across the products. Now understand this very carefully. I have given you this. What UPSC might do is they will throw a grenade at you saying that it is available in all the regional languages. Understand my statement. They'll say that it is available in all the regional languages so that the customers from different regions can utilize this kind of a helpline. No, it is not available in all the regional languages. Please be very, very careful. Done. So this is one more very important initiative of Government of India in the context of DigiSathi. Next, right, I've given the number here, or I've given certain data here. Please have a look at it. Set up by National Payments Corporation of India, helpline for digital payments. Name is DigiSathi. Okay. Next one. Deposits from which of the following banks, or which of the following, instead of banks, you can simply say which of the following are covered or insured under DICGC. This was there in the newspaper. Please be very, very careful. Multiple reasons. In the last couple of years, many of the banks have failed. The customers have been given insurance from DICGC. That is, bank customers have received insurance from DICGC. And Government of India has also made certain very important changes to how DICGC actually functions now. First and foremost, what is the answer here? What is the answer? Are all the deposits in these particular institutions covered under DICGC? No, please be very careful. Public sector banks, private sector banks, SFB, payment bank, district cooperative bank, urban cooperative bank. As long as you have the term bank here, the deposits will be covered. Remember this, as long as you have the term bank here, deposits would be covered. Again, all the deposits, absolutely no. The customer deposits, mainly the customer deposits. For example, if Government of India keeps a deposit or a bank keeps a deposit in another bank, generally these are not covered. Customer deposits. Right, so up to 5 lakh rupees, up to 5 lakh rupees worth of deposits are covered in these particular banks. And have a look at the last one, PACS, Primary Agriculture Cooperative Society. It is not a bank, it is a society. If you keep a deposit in this, will it be covered under DICGC? Absolutely no. And moreover, understand this. Whenever any institution gets a recognition as a bank by RBI, that is, imagine, just imagine, I don't have so much of money, but imagine I've got lot of money, or let's say imagine you have lots of money, right? You will feel happy now. You are a Karodpati or Arabpati now. You have a company and the company wants to launch a bank. Very well, apply for a license. RBI will give you a license, assuming everything will work out smoothly. Now, once you get a banking license from RBI, by default, you will be brought under the coverage of DICGC. You don't have to do anything separately there. By default, you will be brought under the coverage of DICGC. And once you are brought under the coverage of DICGC, you are asked to make certain premium payment. Remember this. You are asked to make certain premium payment. Right now, what is the premium payment? Many of the books or reference materials say it is 10 paise, not rupees, it is 10 paise for every 100 rupee deposits. You need to pay a premium, that is, a bank needs to pay a premium of 10 paise for every 100 rupee worth of deposits to be insured. Earlier it was 10 paise, now it has been increased to 12 paise. It has been increased to 12 paise for every 100 rupees. Remember this. Earlier the insured amount was up to 1 lakh. Now this has increased to up to 5 lakh. And the third very, very important point. Earlier, there was no prescribed time limit within which the insurance amount was supposed to be provided. Last year, Government of India has made mandatory now 90 days from the date of bank defaulting. The bank says, sorry, I will not be able to give the deposit. They will file the papers like this. From that day, within the next 90 days, the DICGC has to provide the insurance amount to the customers. First 45 days, the bank will submit the information to DICGC. Next 45 days, the DICGC will have to provide the insurance amount to the customers. So these are the three very important current affairs points regarding DICGC. Remember this. And one more point, already I have mentioned this. DICGC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. It comes under the ownership of RBI. Okay. By the way, which option is correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Option C is the correct option here. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding AT1 bonds. Right? What is an AT1 bond? Additional Tier 1 bond. Additional Tier 1 bond. AT1 bond. These are issued with a call option. Second, AT1 bonds are not listed on exchange, hence cannot be traded. Both, understand this? Let me explain, then we'll come back to the statement. Don't worry. The banks will have to meet Basel guidelines. We have discussed just now. Banks will have to meet Basel guidelines. So one way through which they can raise capital or correct capital from the market, RBI says you can issue bonds in the market, collect money, that is capital, and you can meet Basel guidelines. So the two types of bonds which are being issued by the banks in this particular regards are one, additional Tier 1 capital and Tier 2 capital. Additional Tier 1 capital bonds or additional Tier 1 bonds and Tier 2 bonds. And what is the speciality about these particular bonds? Let me start with this because the question is on that. Additional Tier 1 bonds are issued by the bank without any maturity. Without any maturity. Right? That is, the bonds are issued and the bank says, whenever I want to purchase, that is a call option. Whenever I want to purchase, I will purchase it from you. Until then, you keep it. If you want to sell it to someone else. But you cannot give it back to me. You cannot simply give it back to me. There is no maturity period. Sir, what do you mean by this? Imagine the bank has issued a bond to you. Maturity period is 2 years. That is called as a put option. In case of this particular bond, after 2-year tenure is over, you can simply give it to the bank, collect your principal amount back from the bank. So that is basically idea of a put option for you. But in case of these particular AT1 bonds, there is no put option. There is only call option. The bank says, I will purchase it. I will recall these particular bonds. Until then, these will be there in the market. Done. And another very important feature of these particular AT1 bonds are that there is a term called as PONV, point of non-viability. There is a term called as PONV, point of non-viability. If a particular bank reaches a point of non-viability, that is in simple terms, it is going to shut down now. If they make a payment, they will shut down, no doubt. In that particular case, that is a bankruptcy case, the bank might simply announce, one, I will not pay any interest to you, and second, I will not even give your money back. You have purchased a bond, yes, I know, I will not give your money back. Right? Just assume that you went to Tirupati, put that particular money in the hundi of Tirupati. That's it. You will not get it back. Right? That can also be the feature. That can also be used by the bank in the context of point of non-viability. And that is the reason these particular bonds are dangerous. They have very high risk. Some of you might be thinking, sir, if there is so much of risk, why do the investors invest? Simple argument is rate of interest, coupon rate is higher. So look at the statements now. These are issued with a call option. The bank will purchase them back. You cannot sell them to bank. That is a put option. So these are issued with a call option. Correct. AT1 bonds are not listed on the exchange, hence cannot be traded. This statement is wrong. AT1 bonds can be traded. AT1 bonds can be traded, easily traded in the market. So 1 is correct, 2 is wrong. Right option will be option A, only 1. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding standing deposit facility, SDF. Standing deposit facility, SDF. Very, very important as far as I am concerned. Why? Very recently announced by RBI, maybe couple of weeks ago, but the discussion has been there for a very, very long duration now. Right? Please understand the importance. Some of you might be thinking, sir, question paper was already set, so there is no probability. SDF has been there in the discussion for many, many years now. It is nothing new. Has been introduced very, very recently by RBI. Has been there in the discussion. Right? So, have a look at this. Now, I will give you a homework here. Simple homework. Which committee recommended concept of SDF? Which is the name of the committee which recommended SDF? Try to find out. Okay. So, have a look at this. We have repo. We have reverse repo, and now we have announced SDF, standing deposit facility. In repo, what will happen? RBI will give loan to a bank and collect a security, collect collateral, charge a rate of interest. That is a repo. In reverse repo, banks have got more money. They will deposit this money with RBI, collect collateral from RBI, and also charge a rate of interest on RBI. Done? That is a repo and a reverse repo. And whenever RBI wants to suck out liquidity, take out excess liquidity from the market, it generally uses reverse repo. It increases the reverse repo so that the banks will keep more deposits with RBI. But the problem that the RBI has been facing is, whenever the banks will keep deposit with RBI, RBI has to give them securities, collateral, and G securities are used here. What if I don't have sufficient G securities? I want to take out the money from the banks. Please understand this. Some of you might be thinking, sir, they can increase repo rate. Na? They can simply increase repo rate. Yes, they can increase repo rate. But that will affect the borrowing of RBI. I'm sorry, borrowing of a bank. Done. But what about the money that is already there in excess with the bank? Right? What about that? I want to suck out that particular liquidity from the market. So what if I don't have sufficient G securities at that point of a time? That becomes a problem. And that is a precise reason now RBI says, I will introduce one more tool, that is standing deposit facility. And understand the importance here. Under SDF, the bank will deposit money with Reserve Bank of India. RBI will not give any security. RBI will not give any collateral. Is it okay? RBI will not give any security. RBI will not provide any collateral. So RBI now can simply use SDF to withdraw liquidity at any point of time from the market. At any point of time. And by the way, reverse repo was actually announced by the government on specific days. RBI would simply say, I am going to conduct reverse repo on this date, etc. Whereas a SDF is a standing facility. Remember the term here. SDF is a standing facility. What do you mean by standing facility? The banks can use this particular facility any day in a particular year. On any given day, they can simply use the standing facility. Whereas reverse repo, RBI would announce on which dates they are going to conduct the reverse repo transactions like this. These are certain very, very important differences. Please be very, very careful with respect to the SDF. Now look at the statements here. This will be the floor of policy corridor. This will be the floor of policy corridor. Statement is true, by the way. Very technical statement, but it is true. First and foremost, a policy corridor means what? It is the rate of interest. Basically, these are the two extreme rates at which RBI will either issue liquidity, supply liquidity to the market, or take out liquidity from the market. I will repeat the statement. Policy corridor means what? It is referring to two rates of interest. One, at which RBI will supply liquidity to the market, and second, at which RBI will take out the liquidity from the market. All of you will agree? Right? Supply liquidity, take out the liquidity. Right? So understand this. There is a right now MSF, marginal standing facility. Marginal standing facility is 4.25%. Repo rate is 4%, and earlier reverse repo rate was 3.35%. They will use a statement like this. policy corridor was unsymmetric. Understand statement here. They will say that policy corridor was unsymmetric. Unsymmetric means what? Repo rate is there and all these particular rates, MSF, reverse repo, these are linked to the repo rate. All of you will agree? If repo rate will change, automatically MSF will change, reverse repo will change. But look at the difference here. MSF and repo 0.25% and the repo and reverse repo 0.65%. Policy corridor was unsymmetric. Now what has happened? Unsymmetric or asymmetric? Right? Some of you will say, sir, you said unsymmetric. There is no such word. Asymmetric. Whatever the word is, don't worry. Now what RBI has done? It has introduced SDF. It has introduced SDF and has fixed it at 3.75%. What is the difference between SDF and repo rate? 0.25. MSF and repo rate? 0.25. So policy corridor, this is the rate at which RBI will suck the liquidity now, take out the liquidity, rate at which RBI will supply liquidity in the market. That is basically the policy corridor. Right now the policy corridor has become symmetric. Done? And remember this, MSF is also standing facility. At any point of time, you can borrow from RBI. Assume you are a bank. You can borrow from RBI. In cases of credit crunch, in cases of immediate requirement of a cash, you can always borrow from RBI. That is the reason RBI is also referred to as a banker to bank. Banker to bank or bank of last resort. In fact, this was asked a couple of years ago by UPSC. That is the precise reason why RBI is referred to as a bank of last resort. Now, this will be the floor of policy corridor. Floor means lower level. Right? Will it be a floor? Yes. RBI says I will not be using repo rate henceforth. I will be using SDF. It will become floor, lower level. MSF and SDF will both be standing facilities. Yes, both are standing facilities available throughout the year. The government has amended RBI Act for introduction of SDF. Right? Is it? Has the government of India amended? Yes. Remember this. Sir, why? Simple logic. Yesterday I have discussed. Any function of RBI comes from where? RBI Act of 1934. If you want RBI to conduct a new function now, SDF, you will have to amend RBI Act. That is the reason Government of India has amended RBI Act for introduction of SDF. So, right option for this question will be option D. 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Next question. Consider the following statements. The subsidy on food and fertilizer incurred by the government has consistently increased in the last decade. Has consistently increased in the last decade. Now, why I am focused on food and fertilizer? Very simple reason. Government of India incurs a huge amount of subsidy on both food as well as fertilizer. And especially in the last couple of months, fertilizer subsidy is there in the discussion. Is it okay? In the last couple of months, fertilizer subsidy has been there in the current affairs. So, look at the statement here. Again, trend based question. The subsidy on food and fertilizer incurred by the government has consistently increased in the last decade. The subsidy again on food and fertilizer as a percentage of total expenditure incurred by the government has consistently increased in the last decade. Both the statements are different, don't get confused. Here, has the expenditure increased consistently? That's a question. And here, expenditure might have increased or decreased, that is not important. As a percentage of total expenditure, has it increased or decreased? Both are two different questions. Don't say, sir, both are one and the same statements. Absolutely no. Have a look at the table. Have a look at the table. Please do not mug up. First and foremost, what has been the expenditure on food and fertilizer subsidy by the government? Central government, by the way. So, total expenditure on food and let's say the fertilizer subsidy, has it consistently increased? Sir, the latest data is not available. Don't worry about latest data. If he is going to ask you, let's say last 5 years, right, just check last 5 years. If he is going to ask the 10 years, last decade, just check. And again, you don't have to mug up. Second, you need to simply observe, is there a trend? Is it increasing, decreasing, or there is no trend? Right? That is more than sufficient. So, what do you think has happened? Total expenditure, has it consistently increased? You will realize that no, right? It has not consistently increased. It has been volatile. Some years it is very high, decline, rise, decline. There is no pattern. So statement is wrong. Now as a percentage of the budget expenditure, total expenditure, out of that as a percentage, has it consistently increased? Can you find a pattern here? Has it increased consistently? No. Some years you will see it has increased, some years you will see it has decreased. So again there is no pattern. So ultimately what you need to derive, or what is the inference? First statement wrong, expenditure, overall expenditure has consistently not increased. Second is also wrong. Both the statements are wrong. Right option for this question will be option D. Right option for this particular question will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding monetization of fiscal deficit. Monetization of fiscal deficit. Again, this is there in the discussion. Last year, year before that, Government of India's deficit was very, very high. That was the context where the experts were discussing, can RBI monetize the fiscal deficit of the government? Now, what is this idea for monetization of fiscal deficit? I'll tell you certain important points here. Understand those particular points. Let me write a statement. RBI can purchase government securities. RBI can purchase government securities. Second statement, RBI can purchase government securities directly from the government. Directly from the government. Don't say both the statements are one and the same. Both are different statements. Can RBI purchase government securities? Yes, they can purchase. But RBI is not allowed to purchase the government securities directly from the Government of India. Let me repeat it. If I said Government of India, correct it. Can RBI purchase government securities? Yes, they can purchase. But from where? Imagine I have certain government securities. RBI can purchase it from me. You have certain government securities. Banks have certain government securities. RBI is allowed to purchase it. But can RBI purchase government securities directly from Government of India? No, that is not allowed. Sir, why it is not allowed? Earlier we used to do that. Earlier we actually used to do that. Right? Certain bills, that is nothing but government securities, were issued by Government of India, sold to RBI. RBI gave the money to Government of India. Very simple. Right? Government of India gave the bills, that is, let's say the government securities, to Reserve Bank of India, and Reserve Bank of India gave money to Government of India. And there is a problem related to this. The problem is very simple. Whenever RBI does give the money to Government of India like this, it simply means the money supply in the economy increases, because this money, let's assume 100 crore rupees, earlier was not there in the supply. It was not there in the system. Now RBI has given it to Government of India, so money supply increases. So there is a danger of inflation. That is the precise reason 1994 and 1997 agreements were signed between Government of India and RBI, and we discontinued this particular concept. And this concept, by the way, where Government of India sells the securities to RBI, RBI gives the money to Government of India. For what purpose? For bridging the deficit. For bridging the deficit. This is called as deficit monetization. This is simply referred to as deficit monetization or monetization of deficit. So 1994, 1997, we signed agreement, discontinued. And that is the precise reason. Remember this, 1997, we introduced the concept of Ways and Means Advances. WMA, Ways and Means Advances. That is the reason we introduced it. And post that, 2003, we actually implemented FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. And under FRBM, we completely did away with the concept of monetization of the deficit. Done? Now look at the statement here. Consider the following statements regarding monetization of fiscal deficit. It is allowed under FRBM. I'll say statement is correct. Now, before you jump to conclusion, just hear me out. Just now, sir, you said it is not allowed. Now you are saying it is allowed. You have gone mad. Right? You have simply gone mad. Right? So, understand the argument here. Under FRBM 2003, we introduced that RBI will not be allowed to monetize the deficit of the government. But this FRBM Act was amended in 2018. This FRBM Act was amended in 2018. And as per this amendment, now under certain circumstances, I'll repeat my statement, under this particular or as per this amendment which has been implemented now, under certain circumstances, RBI can go for monetization of deficit. RBI can do that. So have a look at the statement now. Consider the following statements regarding monetization of fiscal deficit. It is allowed under FRBM. Yes, it is allowed, but conditions are there. It is allowed. Under this, RBI purchases the government bonds from secondary market. Focus on this particular term. Looking at this statement, most of you will jump and say, yes, statement is correct. Right? My question is, I will get a guaranteed marks under this. Statement is wrong. By the way, statement is wrong. Now again you will say, sir, pakka now, guaranteed, 200%, you have lost your mind. Because some time ago you basically said, RBI is allowed to purchase bonds. Just now you told it. But please understand the term secondary market here. Please understand the concept of secondary market. Right? What do you mean by secondary market? Whenever the issuer, either government, private sector, doesn't matter, because anybody can issue bonds and the companies can issue shares. So whenever these are issued from the issuer, are purchased by the investor, this is called as the primary market. This is called as a primary market. So when government will issue the bonds to RBI, it is primary market. And what is the term I have written there? Secondary market. Already RBI is allowed to purchase bonds from the secondary market, but not from government. Is it okay? RBI is already allowed to purchase bonds from the secondary market, right? That is basically when we are holding the bonds, RBI purchases the bonds from us, that is nothing but secondary market itself. So under this, RBI is allowed to purchase bonds from the government of India, that is called as primary. Secondary means it is being resold. Bonds are there, shares are there, they are being resold. Sir, why are you using term share here? Secondary market is a very common term. Do not associate secondary market only with the bond. Shares are issued by a company. For example, imagine you have purchased the shares of Paytm company. Although you will be blaming yourself for the debacle, you will be ruining that particular day. But imagine you have purchased the shares of Paytm. I will come to you and purchase, and I'll simply say, can you give me the shares of Paytm? You'll be very happy. Bakra mil gaya. I'll simply sell the shares of the Paytm. I'll move out of the position. I'll close my position now. So you'll be very happy. But idea is very simple. You are holding the shares issued by the company. Now you are selling the shares to me. You are not the issuer. You are the owner. You will simply sell it to me. That is called as the reselling of the share, which is a part of secondary market. Reselling of instrument happens in the secondary market. Issuance from the issuer happens in the primary market. So whenever you talk about monetization of deficit, it is primary market, not secondary market. Done? So first statement is correct. Second one is wrong. Right option is option A. Option A, only one. Next question. Consider the following statements. The amount of central excise revenue collected on petrol and diesel has consistently increased in the last 5 years. Right? If you have been reading the newspaper, especially in the last couple of days, you will relate to this kind of a discussion. Having said so, sir, it was there very recently. Will UPSC pick it up? It has been there in the newspaper for the last two years. And historically, it has been there in the newspaper. But that particular discussion became very, very famous, or let's say infamous, thanks to one of the chief ministers. Right? So that particular discussion basically spread like a wildfire. Otherwise, we would have not known that Prime Minister is asking the states to cut the tax rates. But anyways, the amount of central excise revenue collected on petrol and diesel by the petrol and diesel has consistently increased in the last 5 years. Again, please underline the term central excise, which means the taxes collected by the central government. Don't say, sir, it is not saying state government or central. Excise comes under the central government, that is an indicator. The amount of state VAT revenue collected on petrol and diesel has consistently increased in the last 5 years. Trend based question. Now, what is the basic idea? First and foremost, understand this. The price charged to the dealer, right? I am taking the example here, Delhi, New Delhi prices or Delhi prices, 48.24 rupees. Sir, how did we arrive at the prices charged to dealer? Very simple. Oil marketing companies are there, for example, HP, right? Or Indian Oil Corporation. They will import, pay certain prices for the oil. They will refine it, now sell it to the dealer. So what is the charge price for the dealer? 48 rupees 24 paisa. Don't mug up the number. Now this is the next very important point. On this particular 48.24%, in addition to this, central government will impose excise duty, collect it. State government will impose a VAT and collect it. Is it okay? State government will impose a VAT, central government will impose excise duty and collect it. And here itself, if you can look at these particular numbers, 27, that is 28 rupees plus roundabout number 16 rupees, 44 rupees. So the price charged to the dealer is 48. Center plus state put together are collecting how much money from us? Right, for every liter 44 rupees. That is the reason India's taxes are both center plus state. The taxes both center plus state impose on petrol and diesel are very, very high in India. One of the highest in the global market, by the way. And that has been one of the reasons why these two, again both center and states, have been able to shore up lot of revenues. Done? But understand the difference here. Generally, whenever you talk about central excise, it is fixed. It is fixed. Per liter government decides. Whereas the state government generally has a VAT percentage, VAT in the form of percentage. For example, I'll just take a simple number here. Imagine the VAT rate is 20%. 20% of what? This particular price, 48 rupees. Whereas central government will simply say, right, whatever is the dealer margin, dealer charges, etc., I will not be worried. I will simply impose per liter 28 rupees like this. That is how the taxation will vary from center to states. Done. Now, what about the question? What about the question here? What has been the trend? Have a look at the trend, you will realize. Don't mug up the numbers. What about the center's collection? Central excise collection. Has it consistently decreased? No. Has it consistently increased? No. What about the states? What about the states? Has it consistently decreased? No. Has it consistently increased? Some of you looking at this, you will say, sir, yes sir, it is consistently increasing. But no, why? Look at this very, very carefully. I hope it is visible to you. Look at the numbers very, very carefully. Some of you look at the graph and simply come to a conclusion, yes, statement 2 is correct. But it is wrong. Why? In financial year 19, the state VAT collection was 2.01 lakh crore rupees. 2.01 lakh crore. In financial year 20, it has come down to 2 lakh crore rupees. So it has not consistently increased, neither it has consistently decreased. So both the statements are wrong. The amount of central excise revenue collected on petrol and diesel has consistently increased in the last 5 years. Wrong. In case of the states, also wrong. Both the statements are wrong, by the way. Right option will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. Let me go to the next question related to this only. Much more difficult, much more tricky in sense. The taxes imposed and collected by the government on fuels is counted as a part of revenue receipts. It is counted as a part of revenue receipts, right? Is it true? What do you think? Go back to the basics. Budget is divided into two parts, revenue side, capital side. Revenue is again divided into two parts, revenue expenditure, revenue receipts. So do you think the tax revenues, that is basically the tax revenues collected through, collected by imposing excise duties, do you think it will be classified under the revenue head or capital head? it will be classified under revenue head. Very simple logic. Anything associated with assets and liabilities, put it under the capital. If it is not associated with assets and liabilities, put it on the revenue. So first statement correct. It is part of the revenue receipts. Second difficult statement. The petroleum taxes collected by the center and the states account for over 20% of the revenue receipts in both of their cases. That is, the amount of revenue that center has collected through excise, it is more than 20% of its receipts. And amount of the VAT revenue which is collected by the states, it is more than 20% of its receipts. Right? Yes, I know it is difficult. It is difficult. But you can't expect a pattern from UPSC just to make it very difficult. He might ask you this. And because there is so much of discussion related to that in the last 1 year, you can't predict what kind of question can appear. Have a look at this. In the context of central government, yes, in the last 2 years, this has held true. In the last 2 years, it has held true. It has been more than 20% of its receipts. What about the state government? What about the state government? In case of the state government, no, it was 8% in the year 2019 and 20. That is, in simple terms, the total revenue receipt, if it was, let's say, 1000 crore rupees. If the total revenue receipts was, let's say, 1000 crore rupees, 8% of this, that is 80 crore rupees, was basically in the form of the VAT collected on fuels like this. So it was 8% for the state government, whereas right, in case of the central government, it is more than 20%. But more importantly, let me correct the statement here before you start accusing me of misleading you. Rather than fuels, I'll replace this with petroleum. Rather than fuels, I'll replace this with petroleum, right? Because that data is there. I've given the question based on that, right? So in case of second statement, already there is a petroleum. So this particular statement, this particular statement, right, in case of this will be correct, fuels will be correct, this will be petroleum. I've already written the petroleum here. Petroleum taxes collected account for more than 20%, etc. So this statement is wrong. In case of center, it is correct, but in case of states, it is not more than 20, it is somewhere around 7 to 8%. So first statement is true. Right option will be option A for this particular question. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding 15th Finance Commission. Very, very important. Very, very important. Why? 15th Finance Commission always is there in the newspaper. Although we have already started implementing, we are in the period of 15th Finance Commission. For last 2 years, it should have been asked by UPSC. They have not asked this. They have not asked this. Right now, 15th Finance Commission recommendations are being implemented from 21 to 26. And I hope you understand, we are there in this particular period as such. We are there in this particular period. So questions can be asked. Please be very, very careful. Look at the statements now. For the first time, weightage for 2011 population has been given. Right? What do you mean by this? Generally, whenever you talk about the Finance Commission, the most important function of Finance Commission is to recommend vertical devolution formula and horizontal devolution formula. To recommend vertical devolution and horizontal devolution. Sir, what do you mean by this? Center will impose and collect taxes. Center will impose and collect taxes. From this, cesses and surcharges will be taken out. Remaining essentially is referred to as divisible pool of taxes. DPT, divisible pool of taxes. Now, part of this particular divisible pool of taxes should go to center and states. Part will go to states, remaining will remain with center. But who will recommend how much should go to center, how much should go to state? It will be done by the Finance Commission, and this is called as vertical devolution. It is referred to as vertical devolution. Now, once it has been allocated for all the states, let's assume 40 crore rupees has been allocated to all the states. But now how much should go to state 1, state 2, etc. until state 28? That is the recommendation called as horizontal devolution. Now remember this very carefully. Vertical devolution formula is 41% for 15th Finance Commission. from 21 to 26, it has recommended the 41% vertical devolution. 41% of divisible pool of taxes should go to states. Remaining 59% will go to center. Of course, the divisible pool of taxes will not include cesses and surcharges. Remember that also. Now, from these particular 41%, how much should go to individually all the states? Recommendation has been provided, and these are the parameters on which the recommendation has been provided. Look at the last column. Look at the last column. 15th Finance Commission is there in the last column. Just to make it much more comprehensive, I have given the earlier 3 Finance Commissions. Just glance through this. Questions can be asked from there also. So, in case of 15th Finance Commission, has the weightage been provided to 2011 population? Yes, weightage has been provided to 2011 population. But look at the statement. For the first time, underline the term for the first time, meaning Finance Commission for the first time ever has allocated weightage for 2011 population. This statement is wrong. Understand my concern here very carefully. If the statement is weightage has been allocated for 2011 population, statement is correct. But the statement says what? For the first time, weightage has been allocated for 2011. This is wrong. Why? Earlier 14th Finance Commission, 14th FC, gave weightage for the 2011 population. For 1971 plus 2011, the total weightage that was given was 27.5%. 10% for 2011 population and 17.5% for 1971 population. So, it will be the 14th FC which has given the weightage for 2011 population for the first time, not the 15th FC. But look at the twist that they can make here. Look at the twist. They can simply say 15th FC is the first Finance Commission to give weightage only for the 2011 population. Earlier 2011 population weightage has been allocated, but now in the 15th FC, no weightage for 1971, only weightage for population of 2011. So, UPSC can twist these particular statements like pretzels like this. Please be very, very careful. Okay. It has allocated highest weightage for population. Wrong. Right? That is wrong. Income distance has the highest weightage, 45%. Population has a weightage of 15. Area also has a weightage of 15%. Right? No. Statement 2 is wrong. So, first is wrong. Second one is wrong. Right option will be option D. Neither 1 nor 2 here. Next question. Related to Finance Commission itself. Again, same in a different way I have given. Only these parameters I have given here. Please go through these parameters, mug them up. Mug up the parameters. Next, related to 15th FC. Consider the following statements regarding 15th FC. It has recommended sector-specific grants. Statement is true. It has recommended sector-specific grants. For example, power sector, agriculture sector, judicial sector, road sector, healthcare sector. It has recommended sector-specific grants. Remember it. Statement is true. It has recommended grants for disaster management. Even this particular statement is true. Both the statements are true. Right. So, right option will be option C, both 1 as well as 2. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding National Monetization Pipeline, NMP. National Monetization Pipeline. Now, what is this National Monetization Pipeline? Simple logic. Do not complicate the things. Earlier, Government of India had announced National Infrastructure Pipeline, NIP. NMP is different, NIP is different. Do not be confused. In NIP, government has proposed to construct huge number of infrastructure projects, somewhere around 8,000 projects now. And because we want to construct these thousands of projects, we will be spending more than 110 lakh crore rupees on this. Government of India says only central government alone will not be spending. States will be pitching in, private sector will be pitching in, and center will also be pitching in. All the three put together will spend more than 110 lakh crore rupees in the next couple of years. Now, in order to achieve that, in order to get certain amount of money to spend under the NIP, government has launched one more initiative, NMP, National Monetization Pipeline. National Monetization Pipeline. And under the National Monetization Pipeline, please understand this very carefully, government will not be selling asset. I will repeat it, government will not be selling assets here. What government will do is, it will simply lease the assets. It will simply lease out the asset. So Government of India from various sectors has found that there are a lot of projects like this, infrastructure projects by the way, or let's say certain assets which are either not being completely utilized, that is underutilized, or not utilized at all. Underutilized or unutilized, certain assets are there. So what government says, I will simply lease out these particular assets for the next 30 years to the private sector. I will lease out these assets for the next 30 years to the private sector, and let the private sector utilize the asset. After 30 years, let them give it back to me, and for this particular time period, I will charge a certain amount of money which I will be able to collect and spend on other projects. That is the whole idea of National Monetization Pipeline. Proceeds from this will be considered as a part of non-debt capital receipts. Statement is true. Proceeds from this will be considered as a part of non-debt capital receipts. Sir, what do you mean by this? Capital receipts again are divided into two parts, debt creating and non-debt creating. Debt creating and non-debt creating. For example, if Government of India recollects a certain amount of loans which they had given earlier to a state government, that is a non-debt creating capital receipt. If Government of India sells Air India and collects money, that is non-debt creating capital receipts. On the other hand, if Government of India sells government securities and borrows from the market, I repeat, if Government of India sells government securities and borrows from the market, it is simply a debt creating capital receipt. So here government, is it selling assets? No. It is simply leasing out the asset. Related to asset, no liability, non-debt capital receipt. Done first one. Second, will cover greenfield and brownfield projects. Please remember these particular terms. Greenfield means infrastructure has to be constructed. Infrastructure has to be developed. Brownfield means infrastructure is already there. You are going to use the infrastructure. Let me give a very simple example. Imagine there is an airport. Government will simply tell you, airport is there, please manage the airport, give me a certain amount of money. Is it okay? You generate revenue, but give me a certain amount of money annually. This is a brownfield project. Infrastructure is already there. Second example, government says, construct an airport. Construct the airport and give it to me. I will give you a certain amount. That is called as a greenfield project. So greenfield projects will be developed, will be constructed first. Brownfield projects means already infrastructure is there. So in this particular case, right, what kind of projects are we using? Those projects which are already set up. Assets are already there. Private sector doesn't have to develop, construct anything here. So remember this, National Monetization Pipeline will cover brownfield projects, not greenfield projects. So statement 2 is wrong. So first one is correct. Right option for this particular question will be 1, that is option A, only 1. Done? So these are the various questions that I have planned for you or had planned for you for today's evening. If you like this initiative, please hit the like button. Provide your valuable inputs in the comments section below. Do not forget to subscribe to BYJU'S IAS, hit the bell icon, and please spread the awareness, spread the word about this initiative amongst your friends so that they will also get the benefit of this initiative. That's it from my side. Thank you. Take care.